For more on this story, we can bring in our international affairs editor, Angela Diffley. Angela, why are we seeing this very significant attack from Russia overnight?
Well, the Russians say it's in retaliation for Ukrainian attacks recently on their oil refineries. These quite significant attacks on infrastructure, reaching right to the west, to Lviv, which has been largely spared action in this war, achieve really two objectives. One is the Russians are quite keen to downgrade Ukraine's air defense capabilities, to force them to use up their air defense capabilities. And the other very important reason is this has a big impact psychologically, this kind of targeting of infrastructure. We all remember back in the winter of 22-23.
Yeah, I understand why they did it then, because of obviously going into winter, you need heating, etc. You need energy.
Yeah, and it wears down a population if there are power cuts, as there will be. And the Ukrainians have decided to set up a committee to deal with what this they call energy terrorism, because it is a very effective psychological weapon. If businesses and households cannot organise themselves properly because they're having cuts to their water supply, power cuts, it has a very, very big impact on psychology, and that is a very major tool in war. That is one of the key reasons why it's being done. Don't forget, of course, that Putin is to some extent expecting a Trump win, and so holding his fire for somewhat in the hope that if Trump gets in, Trump has told the world that he will negotiate a quick end to this thing. We will see what happens. But it is nevertheless part of Putin's calculations. Now, Vladimir Zelensky today, Victory Europe Day, has talked about Putin being the new Nazi and choosing this moment to inflict such a major attack on Ukraine. He is the new Nazi. No doubt we will hear the same tomorrow from Putin, who maintains that this war is about rooting out Nazis from Ukraine. Tomorrow, the Russians celebrate victory in Europe in the against the Nazi regime.
Now, we've been saying this for months, that Ukraine is outnumbered on the battlefield. The country, of course, has had difficulties in signing up new recruits. Now the parliament has just passed a law to allow convicts to fight.
Yeah, this is a new development. Convicts, not those who have been convicted of what are deemed to be serious crimes, such as rape and murder. But that is another indication of their difficulty in recruiting. Already we saw recently the age of conscription was reduced from 27 to 25. Ukraine has one soldier for every three the Russians have. There are about 3 million young men of fighting age in Ukraine who could be fighting and aren't. And they need about another 300,000 to be effective. So they've been looking at what's going wrong, because it's such a contrast. Remember back when that invasion took place in February 2022, we had these queues of people volunteering to fight for Ukraine, and on the other side, a queue to get out of Russia. And in some ways, the situation has been slightly reversed. They've been looking at why it's difficult to get people to join up now. Those most enthusiastic joined up right at the beginning. There's been a lot of talk on social media about corrupt, inept commanders, about inadequate training, about not enough time off for soldiers. And so they are trying to combat things like that. They have said to new recruits that there will be more flexibility, and they might be able to choose their battalions and even in some cases choose commanders. But it's an indication of the big problem they're having with recruiting. That isn't their only problem. Increasingly, we are seeing military people suggesting that it is now time to loosen some of the restrictions on Western aid to Ukraine. We saw David Cameron recently saying that the Ukrainians can use the weapons supplied by Britain as they wish. There is a feeling that this is the time to start releasing those, reducing those restrictions. Meaning, he left it open, but it's widely considered to mean if they wish to target Russia. We have not put in any restrictions, but that is never spoken out loud.
We'll see how things pan out. Thank you very much for that, Angela Diffley.